All right, everyone, the natural big news of the day is that Joe Biden has confirmed, yes, indeed, he is in for 2020. It fucking took him long enough. I don't know, I have a feeling maybe he was waiting for all of the other potentially significant figures to jump into the race. The idea being like he who laughs last laughs best or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, though. I think the other possibility is honestly the fact that he got kind of Me Too'd there delayed him. The fact that he is creepy and has this hanging over his head, I think he believes will be a problem for him, and he's probably right. See, here's the and Donald Trump has already dog whistled to this when he called him Sleepy Joe. Sleepy rhymes with creepy for a reason. There's no reason to call him Sleepy Joe because he's not, he's not a Jeb Bush, if you know what I'm saying. He's not that low energy, so that moniker only makes sense if you're trying to intone something else, but you don't want to say it outright. You just want to allude to it for some plausible deniability, which of course is genius. Trump's going to chew him up and spit him out if he becomes the nominee. Yeah, it'll be Trump 2020 almost certainly. The Obama nostalgia's worn off, I think, for most of the mainline liberals anyway. And of course, Joe Biden's no Barack Obama. He's not as well-spoken. He's not as young. He's not as dynamic. He's certainly got more image issues. And that's saying some because, from a non-biased perspective, if you're not like, oh, I hate the Democrats, oh, Obama, Muslim Kenyan or some bullshit like that, if you just look at him as another standard politician and judge him accordingly in a more unbiased, independent framework like I do, Obama's not exactly a great person, and Joe Biden can't even, play second fiddle to him ably. He was basically kept as a court jester and a bad joke. One of the main highlights of the Joe Biden vice presidency was when he leaned in, had a little hot mic moment when Obama was, I can't remember what he was announcing at the time. He's like, oh, this is a big fucking deal, and Obama pushes him away and looks frustrated thereafter. Oh my God. And it was basically that he humanized the administration, which, killed a lot of people with drones and desperately needed somebody there to be the court jester. Here's my analysis of how this affects the race. Of course, as I've said before, he jumps in, he's the automatic front runner. He outpolls everybody else. On a good day, Bernie Sanders' better polls is equivalent to Joe Biden's lower polls, but he's arguably at 30%. Now, will that change in the wake of him jumping in? Possibly, and there are two possibilities. We got to keep an open mind here for a little while and see which of these occurs. Joe Biden could get a boost, because up until now, while it was presumed he would get in, the fanfare of him actually being in was absent. So it could give him a boost. It could be that some people that are sort of fencing, like, okay, Joe's in, I'm going to back him. It gives him a few extra points. It could be, though, that because he's the front runner, and when you're over the target, you take a lot of flack, he gets hammered by everybody else on the Me Too stuff. I'm sure that especially with Kamala and Elizabeth Warren, they're going to hit him on that. Because they're the strong female, empowered woman candidate sort of thing. They've got the feminist voters. They're going to try to appease them to solidify their block. They're going to be trying to out-feminist one another, by the way. Since they're near even in polling, they will attack Joe Biden. Will he manage to survive it politically? I don't know. The best thing he can do, the best thing, if I were his advisor, if I were Joe Biden's advisor, I'm like, 2020 election, the general, off the table. I wouldn't, I would never advise him because I wouldn't want him to win, but it would be harder to give advice. But in the primaries, what I would advise him is this. Look, the business Democrat / center-left block that you have is enough to get you the nomination in such a packed field as long as you're capable of not taking the bait. All you have to do is look more rational than a bunch of leftists because those are your main competitors. Bernie Sanders is an avowed socialist. Kamala Harris is a tough on crime turned tough on, everybody else, tough on herself, sort of far leftist. Elizabeth Warren is a progressive, sort of self-branded, and that's really your competition. So you have no disadvantage whatsoever as long as you can keep your block solid. The only other people trying to compete for that are Buttigieg, who's he's a flash-in-the-pan candidate, if I had to guess. Now, I don't think that he'll be there long. And a Hickenlooper. Hickenlooper's not even on half the polls because he doesn't have a political pulse. Biden can arguably win and never get more than 40% in a state. All he has to do is last through Super Tuesday and sweep things up. He does that by campaigning harder through Super Tuesday and having a couple of good debate performances. Now, while he's a gaffe master, I would say, look, ultimately, all you have to do is not say stupid shit. These people are going to attack one another and try to out-leftist one another on their policy proposals, but there is a block within the party, 25, 30, maybe 35%, that hates these people. That's your voting block. Stick with it. Stick it out through Super Tuesday. Make sure that you are the one that has, notched up enough wins. You've got 5 or 6 states at that point, even in a very crowded field. You're the front runner. You're the man to beat. They'll keep attacking you. They will try to bait you. Ignore them. Now, what do I expect to actually happen? That's what I would think if he's smart. He'll go down the center-left route and he'll say, look, we need togetherness. The country's being... Basically, his line should be, the country is being torn apart by Donald Trump because my orange man bad, my bigotry. Okay, that ticks the box of attack Trump. And then here's... we need at least inter-party togetherness. We need to stop with the out-there proposals, because otherwise Trump will win and he'll keep tearing the country apart. That's a winning message. It's more of a platform than most of the other fucking Democrats have. Mike Gravel doesn't get taken seriously. At least he's got a platform. He's had one. He's recycling his Iraq War era platform, but at least it's there. There are no standout people, though, in the 2020 Dem field. Joe Biden's not a standout candidate. He just happens to look sane compared to other weirdos that happen to have jumped aboard, because they're like sharks circling the water. They think they smell blood. What they think is that Trump will be easy to beat. So like, wow, I'm one step from the presidency. All I have to do is defeat these losers. I'm throwing my hat in the ring. If I got any chance at all, I don't care if I get 3%. At least I tried. I want the ultimate power. These people, by the way, most of them are total opportunists. And when they lose, they'll turn around, turn it into a book deal, or they'll start selling gold on Priceline or something like that. That's what'll end up happening. Will Joe Biden become president? I don't think so. I don't think that look, he's an old... It's sort of like Bernie Sanders. He's an old white male in the Democratic Party. That's not good for him. He could end up becoming the nominee and causing a schism within the party. By the way, here's a little bit of advice to people who are, more Republican-minders. Or they just want to... Trump will be the nominee in the Republicans, so you might as well, if you're in an open primary state, you might as well take a Democratic ballot. I probably will. There's an open primary state. I can vote in the Democratic primaries if I want. Of course, if I'm in another state, that might not be the case. Maybe I'll have to register. I'll do that. But, you can consider voting for Joe Biden because he'd be a very weak nominee. Conversely, you could vote against Joe Biden and cause chaos by voting for one of these half a dozen socialists that are running. None of them can beat Donald Trump. Kamala Harris can't become president. You're not going to see a President Elizabeth Warren. It's just not feasible. Bernie Sanders, I don't think his case... If there was a 1 in 100 chance of him winning and he became president, he'd be a lame duck on day one anyway. The Republicans would say, okay, they've elected a socialist, the Democrats are nuts. They would immediately begin branding for the subsequent election in order to gain and back huge support in the House and Senate, and probably work. By the way, to the Democrats, you're looking at short-term gain, long-term pain if you actually nominate Sanders. Because if he does win, it'll be worse for you than if he loses. If he loses, at least you can campaign about Orange Man bad some more. But then when things inevitably continue to, be problematic and Bernie Sanders doesn't fix anything because he has no mandate, he's going to be the one taking the blame, and the Democrats will irreversibly be seen as a socialist political movement. So be very, very careful. You'd arguably would be better off with Biden. And you'd be better off running a boring failure sort of Mitt Romney 2.0 for the Democrats' election, losing and at least having Trump in there to be a lightning rod for your left-wing criticism. It'd be very funny to see what happens. I think that unfortunately, though, for Joe, he's likely to take the bait, and he's likely to move further left on one or more issues to try to differentiate himself and outcompete some of his left-wing opponents, and I think that's a mistake. That's probably what his advisors will tell him to do, because obviously these same people advised him to get up on stage, invite kids, up there, and then make a Me Too joke. That wasn't great optics. And even though it didn't sink his presidential ambitions, the polling shows no real movement after that. Another gaffe like that, now that he's in, could be deadly to his campaign, to tell the truth. But I look forward to it. That Sleepy Joe is really Creepy Joe, but Trump's not going to use those words. He'll let other people do that instead. That's about all. Peace out.